Hello, Math 8 students. This is Mrs. Youd. Today I'm going to be teaching you about writing equations in slope-intercept form. Please have out your spiral notebooks and open up to a nice clean page and write this at the top of the page. We are also going to be using and writing a lot of graphs in this lesson. So my suggestion is that you have some graph paper with you and take a pair of scissors and some glue, and that way you can cut out some graphs and put it into your spiral notebook as they are needed. When writing equations in the slope-intercept form, you first need to find the slope. Remember, this is the direction and the steepness of the line. You also need to find the intercept. So this means where does the line cross the y-axis? So after you have those two bits of information, the slope and the y-intercept, you then need to write the answer. So the answer is going to be y equals, and then whatever the slope is goes in this box. Don't forget your x, plus whatever the y-intercept is goes in that box. Remember, the slope goes with the x, and the y-intercept gets either added or subtracted onto the end, depending on if it's positive or negative. Let's do a few examples. Please pause your video and get set up with this first problem. So remember, we need to have two parts. We need to know what the slope is, and then we also need to find the y-intercept. So let's first talk about the slope. Since it's on the graph, we can count up and over to find our slope. So when I count up, I count 1, 2, 3 up, and 1, 2 over. So that means that our slope is 3 over 2. I also see that this is a negative slope. So that means I need to put a negative sign in front of my slope. A different way to find the slope is to use the slope formula. Remember, the slope formula has a fraction bar with two negative signs on the top and the bottom. So we want to put our y numbers on the top. In this case, my y numbers are 5 and 2. So I'm going to put a 5 and a 2 here. My x numbers are 0 and 2. So I'm going to put a 0 and 2 here. 5 minus 2 is 3. 0 minus 2 is negative 2. Notice that I got the same answer whether I counted it on the graph or used my slope formula. My second bit of information is the y-intercept. Remember, the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. If I look at my picture, I can see that it crosses the y-axis at this point, which is 5. That means I know my y-intercept is 5. Okay, now that I have both of my pieces of information, I'm ready to write my answer. Remember, my answer is y equals my slope goes here. Don't forget the x, and then plus my y-intercept. My slope we got to be as negative 3 over 2. So I'm going to write negative 3 over 2 in that first box. My y-intercept we found is positive 5. So I'm going to write 5 in that second box. I'm just going to rewrite it without the boxes. So y equals negative 3 over 2x plus 5. So that is the answer for the equation of this first line. Please pause the video and get set up for the second example. Okay, let's start by finding the slope. So I'm going to take a pen and go and draw my triangle between the 2 points. We're going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up, and 1, 2, 3 over. So that means that my slope is up 5 and over 3. This is a positive slope, so that means that we would write it as a positive, but usually we don't bother putting that plus sign, so I'll just erase that. So my slope is up 5 over 3. Let's practice using the slope formula as well. So I'm going to write my skeleton of the formula there. My y numbers go on top, so that would be -3 and 2. So we have -3 and 2. My x numbers go on the bottom, so that's 0 and 3. So we have 0 and 3. -3 minus 2 is -5. 0 minus 3 is -3. Whenever you have a double negative, they cancel and it becomes positive 5/3. So as you can see, we got our same answer using the formula as we did when we counted on the graph. My second bit of information is to find the y-intercept. Remember, the y-intercept is where does the line cross the y-axis? My y-axis is here. So if I look and see, my line crosses it at that point right here, which is at -3. So I'm going to write -3 here. Okay, let's write our answer. Y equals, my first one is the slope. My slope, remember, is 5/3. Don't forget your x. The second thing we write is our y-intercept. My y-intercept is -3, so I'm going to write -3. And here is my answer for the equation of that second line. Sometimes you're not going to have the graph and you'll only have points. So for this example, I have 0, -1 and 3, -5, but I don't have a graph to use. So that means that in order to find my slope, I can't count on the graph this time. I have to use my slope formula. So my slope formula, there's the skeleton of the formula. We're going to put our y numbers on the top. My y numbers are -1 and -5. Notice I put my -5 in parentheses because I already have a negative in my equation or my formula, so I have to put it in parentheses here. My x numbers go on the bottom, so I have 0 and 3. So I have 0 and 3. Okay, so -1, and then we have double negative. So I'm going to rewrite that as -1 plus 5. 0 minus 3 is -3. So that's going to become +4 over -3. So this is my slope, 4 over -3. Now we need to find our y-intercept. Well, fortunately, one of the points that we were given happens to tell me the y-intercept. Anytime you have 0 as an x, then this number will be your y-intercept. Because if I were to graph this on a graph, just really quickly, 0, -1 would be here. Notice that 0, -1 is on the y-axis. So that means that my y-intercept is going to be -1. All of the problems that you will receive in this class will be, one of the points will be what the y-intercept. You just need to find out where the 0 is for the x. So now we're ready to write our answer. Y equals, remember my slope goes first. My slope is 4 over -3. Don't forget your x. And then our y-intercept goes next. My y-intercept is -1, so -1. So this is the equation for this problem. Let's practice that one more time. Here I have my 2 points, 2, 6 and 0, 2. So let's first find our slope. I'm going to write my skeleton of the formula. My y numbers go on top, 6 and 2. My x numbers go on the bottom, 2 and 0. 6 minus 2 is 4. 2 minus 0 is 2. I can simplify this by dividing by 2, so that gives me 2 over 1. 2 over 1 can also be simplified to just 2. Let's find our y-intercept. Remember, the y-intercept is where x has a 0. So x is 0 here. That means that this is my y-intercept, 0, 2. So my y-intercept is 2. Remember, if we were to graph this, 0, 2 would be on the y-axis. So that means it is my y-intercept. All right, let's write our answer. Y equals, my slope goes first. My slope is 2. Don't forget the x. My y-intercept is also 2. So we want to say plus 2. If we just wrote 2 there without the plus, it would mean that it'd be multiplied together, which would be incorrect. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching.